recently, I'm having a interview this coming Thursday to hire 3 more temporary carpenters. Yaha will be getting that, and then I also requested for a plumber. We need to really move a lot of the stuff here on the on the fairgrounds. I call akot ado the con stigo yaha kudo ashi nahankaki itedo les kudo, becoming my own department with the fair office. I have absolutely no general funds that's coming to the fair office to house keeping the upgoing of the fair. We're gonna have to create a plan of operation, and then create another fund management plan to be changed, and then to create a budget for the program. And in that area, more staff will be needed. In that area, you're looking at the fair office, the fair manager, the office specialist. I'll need an accountant, a senior program and project specialist. That for that position, I would be looking at, other grants that we can go for out in the areas of, getting more monies into the fair office to enhance the ability to keep it going. I'll be needing a graphics designer, a public information officer, and then getting full-time employees with 3 additional carpenters full-time, a full-time plumber. So for the new department, it's really something that we can talk about from here on to really drastize and get these things moving for the fair, for if this should ever happen, that we would go on. But right now, in working with the Department of Agriculture, they're very supportive, and the staff really do help me when need be. So I'm doing that. Also, we're also looking for additional spaces. Right now, I am sitting in the sports center on the southwest side of the building, and currently we are serving the office of the controller on their hardship. They're located on the northeast side of the building. Just so everything is running pretty smooth right now with the hardship. A department on the agenda is the master plan. Well, I know that I just showed you guys a picture that we are working on that, but after advertising it on the Navajo Nation Times, we did not get no referrals or no packets on the master plan. So now we're gonna re-advertise and go beyond, going through the sole source audit and the master plan. You see, being the no Hasikito, the Kunela Bahato Lesh Ninigi there's hardly no concrete information that I did not receive no bids. Therefore, I have no calculation of the amount of money that we will be looking at in that amount. So as soon as I can get the information, I can forward those things to you at that time. Put out the HAA report shadow. If you guys have any information or any comments, I'll yield that back to you, Mr. Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Watchman, are you on the call now, sir?
Yes, yes, Mr. Chair, I am.
Okay, you want to add to the presentation?
Yes, Mr. Chair. I guess the fair manager, Mr. Leonard Francisco, kind of gave majority of the detail. In terms of where we sit right now and what the outlooks are moving forward, according to the agenda, Mr. Francisco did mention, and maybe they really go back to the history and some of the things we need to weigh in as we move forward. When the Nomination and Fair Office or the fair events were established, it was established under a commission. Basically, it was a racing commission at one time. The racing commission itself grew to other events, and now it's what it is today. But looking at the commission sort of a concept, that's probably the main goal. I don't know if a department would be something that would work today because of what the struggles are with all of the programs within our nation. The fair needs some flexibility, maybe outward thinking, an authority, some kind of authority where it has oversight, say like NHA or others that have that independent capacity, but report back to the oversight. That might be more ideal moving forward, but overall, there's going to take an investment to move that direction, probably upwards of about $10 million. We have some debt service to the nation right now under our fund manager, under our proprietary, our enterprise fund, as well as infrastructure needed to gain a better venue to ultimately, basically any venue you have to charge a premium price to maintain. So those are some outlooks, and some schematics need to be put forth, and also some cost, return, and that's what we need to work on. And in the coming months, probably give you what venue could have a return where it be stable is probably our direction we would be going. Not really emphasizing the department, probably some private side to the nation, quasi-private would be a recommendation. Seeing that it has been under enterprise, and that's the closest you come to a sort of private venture within Navajo government, but that has a lot of I guess decision makers in processing payments, even down to even $10 versus $1,000 or hundreds of dollars that the fair does run through annually. So it's more of a report and discussing with staff and planning, and we recently had a strategic planning, and this is infrastructure is the main thing that came up. We have been working with NECA and NTUA, and they gave us a cost estimate to do some preliminary drainage issues and also some utility upgrades, road as well. And that price tag came in around 3.5 million. And those are just general work that really needs to take place with the grounds we have. That's just an example. Moving forward, the really disappointing that not many people applied for the master plan. There's been several master plans over the years. Maybe that's why, but never implemented. So I guess the goal we have, and through the fair office, is we want to maybe go by stage of phasal and work on the drainage, by this year, do some aesthetic improvements. But the coming year, our target is the 50th or 75th annual. So what we're going to be doing if we do get a master plan, we're wanting them to see what we can phase in within the months we have remaining, and then also the off season we have with our fair events, and then working towards the 75th is our immediate goal. So we're pretty much on an 18-month calendar moving forward is our goal set, and we'll put that more of in a timeline and what we're looking at. Our primary goal right now is to get ready for an event we're having July 1st through the 4th. That would, hopefully that stays in place, to where we have a Ag Expo, which would feature some of the similar events happening that time of the year, as well as moving toward the annual fair event, which again, it's going to take some preparation. We are moving to make some improvements. As mentioned, hopefully they get NECA in to do some drainage improvements and then some infrastructure, as well as sewer. This half of our 18 months moving to planning our 75th. Mr. Chair, I guess that hopefully I know the agenda has two parts to it, but hopefully kind of gave a lean into what we're thinking, and we stand for questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Watchman. Honorable members of RDC, any comments, questions on under A, the presentation that was provided to us? And
Chairman Keelan.
Honorable Begay, go ahead.
Chairman, I can't list kudo. Report Aliaki. I just some information. Maybe forward that to Mr. Francisco and Mr. Watchman. I'm sure they're aware of it. But based on the report that we got just now, as usual, it's disappointing. Even the way we've been doing program operation on the Navajo Nation, alit ado ay sinta anishta ado ika peso ben hatat na shilin de jobago kenda elia. I mean, we're talking about a 2018 invoice, and I think we're more. I mean, it is important, but why is the nation really fishing around for a plumber? I mean, where's our maintenance staff at? Maybe I can make contact for you on behalf of the program to get those done. But I mean, things like that is really just just like us as a legislature. But yet I'm here trying to work on a porta potty. Allah ishin kuto yat el with the dots in chachens ado hit alla e yego betzila and hato nilto ato nink to echwin zin adot o peso konelan needs an ohan. And I really disagree with the pros and cons about becoming its own department. Ninigi dot or that aid or she with that's an halinigi abansana case, meaning that it can't get away from a bottle. It ate away years late. A bottle yotsa na natasha even over several years later. Koko o egi that's it and halenti fair office. Koko what I've sent to you guys, Chairman, I apologize for saying you guys, everyone else, leadership, but in the state of the state of Arizona and the state of New Mexico really does have broader illustration of how their state fair operates. It is established by statute, but just like an entity, my thinking is that yes, I sure like for this to be taken out of the program and be as a standalone office, where I mean maybe again, I mean, I don't know how the best way to say it, but the very more experienced individual that would be able to take the helm of running a program. Ego kodo qualification. Other dik at board hat niniki bassen the loyat ehensen, and I feel I don't feel right as a legislature to be board members. A koko kodo the kui the shimba hasi Kishin yegu in the has ido I da ho iniki da has town yat indishni. Meaning that, for example, rodeo has anta. I mean, we have Navajo that are at the level of NFR these days. Ada da kontra da do kregi or that dan the has town ta. And at the launching icy got out. Other there's an organization chart for each for the fair for the state of Arizona. They even have a staff that really that takes care of parking, that takes care of ticketing, that takes care of different event. I call it that ego go lachit edo lich in so the Latoban case. The plan that I would really want, Chairman. I mean, I apologize for making these somewhat negative comment, but again, sometimes it frustrates me is halit to yego hit na the do to hit yego hajo hil nahit eda akoko o ujit oden danish olsen do hat neta akoko halit these as chairman. How can we pool some funding together once this program is established by itself? But with a new board member in place, maybe next year, get this year shade be not the go kodo another ni I don't know what you next year gilahit ego good at policy git him bika holia go next year it a passel yard up on the plan of operation other yard and lindiki bandoch other dipi does nindiki hit out a deal ni other the board member hat nindiki his road hondo add-on the add-on or slip at the dot nil. But that should be their only goal on a yearly basis. At ego ko. At el yago ko la yat esto lesson. Although we try to get some insight or input recommendation to our program. Last week, 2 weeks ago, but yet, I believe, Mr. Francisco, you and one of your staff were denied of a travel which is understandable. But other than how they host, organize, and develop the plan of a big event such as a PBR. It abe nature thought it I quantity be beta hosni. It I deep and danish and hit non hit the hoist. Other did our codona and liniki. A day needs and no, called the main organizer was a former bull rider, Aja. A coco hodat age hot tato non liniki. atahot aki khulpeta hozon be benach khote alla be hiji be sato we ban tse case alla be jol nstoli nsin benna ut schedule island go at the queen adeni khe akoko benna go dik chairman. I believe that we just need to ask for that plan of operation to be developed and put it in statutes, but at the same time be more like an entity, be on its own. What ego good I see hajo at the Lincoln. Dirdik at the heat out and on between the before it was the under the Parks and Recreation to just the initiation the Yego which in a hundred which in a hundred Department Agriculture kunanat on a daily basis programs that lasted Navajo Nation but the initiation Yundanish the who would have time to find a plumber kwaki gishi bebinago go bindit asaha kwaki nan shinliniki be baka hotel ya ko kododo nan lagot asaje nan shinliniki yidi kaldo lesson soban saskeshe. So I don't know why it says that only 4 staff will be budgeted because that ash and lean later. I mean, the 60 or 70 years old, the whole just because epi hanas and later hasned lamp based on linigit neya asanat lake ko halet ad based on that atenai nelda hashet out. So it means took at to ebit other that all that. The way it was established, but not peso and nahaki did asha hadal yago ajot ashi jo peso and liniki bendenota. And then we have a lot of account based on liniki shinda. So in here, I think that's where we would come in, chairman. Those that to be cut teacher. The entities not liniki based on be banija bandoche. Ado an hilto kodo Navajo Nation Council da shin la peso yanito ar hajo pana oskano da shin to hala din hitne en diniki pat to sato ye ekla to hat ajo pana oskano da shin la peso bande tot got out a pejo na shin diniki bispetod na hash ad yego ot to that yisiki at sponsorship. Because we have a lot of opportunities out there on Sun in the rodeo arena world. Kung you labita all kan do lashing yego sato ato chakoshin ato yego ada that's a don't see case ta. So you advertise with that that as a later rodeo do isibanda al deko. Ako a chairman. So, kodo information which a hushaki that she has your review earlier, maybe replicate to start making a plan on it, and then maybe our legislative council is shin sto kodosh mayaja to a shin that's a kodo maybe I don't know as a committee or some form of a request to legislative council to say that in what area. How is it that we can be able to establish this fair office as a separate, maybe special, if not as an entity of the Navajo Nation? On Nishiki, it's probably not. It's not just going to be rodeo. Just 2 events on a yearly basis. Conference anda outlet to a satoche da yos. A condition is a hotel that I sat in the street, some conference building that in the street, quite a fairground has anake And I always ask and say that who really thought of putting a wellness center on a fairground? Pela you has go quack it at a wellness center key was obits on the base or not like it I mean that's my assessment. Base of nothing dot I have been quack a wellness center key need so what a call the building I think the baby and the has a call a quacky Zo Iliad a Bayat Ensign Ada Ada been conquered Jigat in his sponsorship and any hated ICA go a deal sort of Hela IC live. I'm sure you guys are watching basketball like last night. The Suns not the Hanesna. On the arena the Hishing brand name the Bibita Deatlet. It meaning that they're the main operator, contributor to that particular organization. Unless you go there, but that's shit. Even on the gold, and they top down the quite a company Bishop Akatla, meaning that they're advertising themselves. In return, they're pumping in so much money to the event or to the facility. I don't let Jersey the bond the PayPal the Bakal that nonsense. The Bakal we call Adan she base of Slahit and Slah. So Halet chairman. Halet out on net that quite added that don't say case that in son says cases to Zido. I'm not saying I can resolve this. It that I go oh yes, not the yast killer. It did the Shiego, but not a god, 11 stay or Shisha, Nashan Sakis, the nonsense. But I think that's where we really need to go. And I need Liniki, Halet out did out on Nidiki, but he Kaidobat Hika. It is neat ancient as an RDC. I think this is our where the oversight for this program. It all general model. It is neat and general. But all need up at lead long codo ego dot as nabiga tapat each to biga personata at jahata quackidolo shayat ehot hahatet ada isla atas ado quackila flowers that ada get at the la quackit along the fence and then general general ki ilyala Johato Niliki ha Ilahato Lichenson. Other Benetic Washiki the hit out and Traza tunnel the Baliago, but that could be taken over as a parking lot that such estation quake able Kohoki Benetic Bashes Benetic Gate Niki. So that ego halit so Joben had the lands and stock quake. At the RV's campground at that aid that was hotted out of the Sheenstone zone. So anyway, any history that last quick Sheen last 2 weeks Saturday, and down shade Hati Kaya down for Elahit. How can I convince the some of the committees or the programs that this is what we should do and what needs to be done? But Asian does it in Ada CKP that the other that has job changed ben that has quite a job ben he can't give it don't need to based on linigit oh you had a say nilo ada show you ni na based on la ko eda that dog quite based on not based on quite ben he can't give be hard to don't need other brand name ki quite a bit that shit of it don't need the dashin that it don't need to go out. That way, it's not really going through the government, but it's really going directly to the program itself. Don't listen. I call it the chairman. I don't know. If you think I'm like up in the sky on cloud nine, get me back on earth and say that it can't be done. I mean, that's the simplest word that you guys can say it to me to stop talking about it. But what end it, chairman? So again, I'll just need some I will request of the committee, Kodo committee members need Linigi Halit Ayego, plan of operation, Bahadil Nito, Peso Bandi Chihikito Betilne. But there needs to be a better, effective, more aggressive individuals that needs to take the helm on this particular situation. With the chairman, I'll probably have additional questions or comments after.
Thank you, Honorable Gay, for your recommendations, your concerns. Fair Office Fairground has ado di koro. We'll go ahead and have Mr. Francisco and Mr. Watchman respond and take this into consideration, the recommendations that you're making and where we can take this as far as creating a model fairgrounds within a very attractive atmosphere to bring people in. CKP so let me give the floor back over to Mr. Francisco and then Mr. Watchman.
Good morning, Doyate, Mr. Chairperson, Ado Eyaha, Mr. Begay, on your comments that you have recommended. And looking at, in lieu of all of that, we are, let me bring up first is the 4th of July, the Agricultural Expo. I have coordinators that are taking care of different activities. So once we finalize all of that, we can share that with you. For AA, we do have coordinators like the rodeo area agi AA Ivan Vicente Ajit Yinaga do Ebe Bohosnihiko. A lot of it is being providing the delegation to these individuals that are coordinators that can be responsible in making this event a success. And we work together to make this thing happen. So a lot of it is the Department of Agriculture staff. These things that were addressed, and I do take in any negative, any remarks like that, but I just had to work with those and respect the leaders, and that's just the way I am, because I've been a leader before, so I can comprehend a lot of that. So I know Mr. Begay did really express in moving the direction of getting the Navajo Nation Fair office under the department. And with due respect, we can do it. I can do it with the staff, and we can maybe draft up a plan of operation and run it through your legal counsel with Ms. Khan to review the document before it can run through the 164 process. We can go from there in getting the document in place in a timely manner so it can go before your approval as RDC, and working with that. Ashi adonito bin hachaado bin jagal adonish. We can work at it, and I like to hear that you guys are willing to help with the funding part, which I really am gratified of that. And Ishi working with all of that, I would like to work with you guys and getting this thing moving. For sure, I would say that it can be done. It's just the work that is going to entail, and we just need to work forward to it and getting that document in place and running it through the 164 review process, and making sure that we have the monies to support it as well. Akvo benach yaha, you know, be she let that so sinto she na hatni do lecho benachish do tachini do lecho be nasco nacho gato benach yaha kudo be adonis in it can happen. We can work together to make this thing happen. So, you know, there's nothing more I can say because the leadership is speaking and working through all of this, and you know we can do it. So that's the comment that I wanted to refer back to you guys. And and I think Mr. Watchman may comment as well.
Thank you. Mr. Watchman?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I guess in lieu of some of the comments made or some questions asked, just want to give perspective to some of our rationale and thinking. We did look at fairs throughout the union, and unfortunately, fairs are a dying breed in every state. The ones that are still around, they're basically either have been taken over by a private entity or they've gone bankrupt and they had to be bailed out by a state, including Arizona, including New Mexico. The emphasis is that they had to contribute their general fund and split out their revenue streams to only procure those areas in which they come from versus infrastructure development, those kind of things that eat up a lot of revenue. So those are the reasons for them being bankrupt or compliance to safety issues. And so we're no exception as we move forward here. That has to be considered. And if we were to move forward as an entity, then the initial investment would be high, very high. And to offset that, we're looking to maybe look at the infrastructure that we can improve in lieu of some kind of a change. In respect to management, myself, I've been very close, worked very close, and I was a quasi commissioner for a while for the New Mexico State Fair, and it had the same magnitude. But I can also tell you that it's run very similarly in terms of putting on an event, also maintaining a low cost, but maintaining that everything is safe. And at the end, the cost runover is inevitable, especially with the Navajo Nation Fair. And like the state of New Mexico, it's a low income client base. And ours is, in retrospect, the entertainment dollar is very low. So when you plan an event, and the Navajo Nation Fair being no exception, probably the entertainment value per week, maybe not more than $100, if that even that, for a family. And that's stretching it. So all of our venues, in terms of pricing, has to take in that into consideration. And in retrospect, for the past 10 year, 20 year, or 10, 15 years, the fair has gone ups and downs and has a lot of investment. But one of the things that when we took over is that we changed over the entrance fees, and we did buyouts. We had more attendance in 2019 than it had in 20 years based on the performance. So what we did is basically gave relief to the families, and we went out and got sponsorships to offset that. And whether we can do that again or replicate that is going to be a challenge this year. But as we look at other ways, and I mentioned that one of the things that's real difficult, like right now, it takes a while to get a contract through. But if we were an entity, we would, go and if we had a CEO or something like that, basically take that signature to engage and secure a entertainer, which they want a 10-day or a 15-day return on any offer, which we really, by law, cannot make that offer, within that time, because it has to go, and the offer is basically made by the president in terms of a contractual agreement. So those are some of the obstacles that Mr. Francisco is facing. And I'll give you an example with infrastructure. We can't do any kind of improvements. It has to be all program management through, or project management through design engineering. We attempted to do a third-party certified engineer to do improvements with office, our bleachers, other improvements, but all of those are bogged down within community development. So we looked at other ways to improve the grounds where that's not a brick and mortar. We're looking at just buying stuff that we can purchase that can be mobilized, but then it won't fall under the constructional aspect. And that's not the best way to go, but with the timelines we have, that's what we're faced up against. Lastly, and all due respect to our Navajo businesses, all of the Navajo businesses that we push and forward, they are failing us because we were supposed to have started our border fence a month and a half ago, and now we don't know where our vendor is right now. We had a marquee was purchased, and it was also now a vendor, and they haven't put it up in 6 months, and they give a lot of runaround to us. So, but it took so long to get them a payment, and then maybe the cost has changed, so forth. But those are some of the things we're experiencing, but we're getting through those, and we plan to have an event be ready for September. But all the other dialogue that's been described about, say, the PBR, incidentally, the Navajo Nation put on a PBR about 35 years ago. And when Judd, I think Judd Mortensen was still writing, or maybe a teenager, his idol was the Custer brothers. So we're well familiar with the Custer brothers, and we put on the first PBR in Indian country about 35 years ago. And since then, PBR has been in and out, CBR, but we did have a PBR in Gallup, the sort of associate event with, sort of trying to use a private flavor. And those people were in attendance, and basically we kind of exchange ideas because they run 2 events, one in the Cave Creek and also Prescott area. And we sort of exchange, and they like some of the things we did that was cutting above what they were doing in terms of production, as likewise with us. So as we move for our coming PBR, I think that information that we have brought together, even promotions with, I think, the Cowboy Livestock Network, we're right in line with that to hopefully bring a better venue to Winter Rock. And I see at one time, a few years back, Mr. Chair, you attended the event and was saying we need some help in terms of presenting what we have as a jewel in Winter Rock. And we plan to do that by having more upfront, meaning that the event is going closer. So kind of a stadium style venue to where it's not so spread out, and we can feel the action is the thought. So there's things like that. And there's other things that Mr. Francisco has been in meetings on, and also we're implementing, and we think we're going to have a change that people notice. But as I mentioned, in the 75th annual is where what we want to really focus on. And if there's changes moving until then, we need to have a guidance. And maybe with our master plan, we'll look at the changeover, because I mentioned there's not just about changing to a department or change. There's some debt service as well as some needed buffer of cash on hand. And right now, when you're generally funded, and when it's not generally funded, it's really difficult. So this last wording is all of the state-run fairs are generally funded, but they do break out some cash portions, like say they have a concert, they pay for that separately, or they say they do things separately. But overall, which Mr. Francisco is faced with is every hour that he works, it comes out of in lieu of an event coming forward. So he's paid out of the enterprise fund. So all staff, every day is a drawdown on that enterprise borrowed amount. So it's very difficult to work in that circumstance. Unfortunately, that was the wish of RDC about maybe 10 years ago. They stripped all of the general funds and moved it somewhere else. So the fair has been, didn't have that upstart, to plan, because they're already, and the fiscal year begins, they're already being counted, with no event. And what hurt Mr. Francisco is that when he didn't have an event, it was debt to the nation. Fortunately, he was able to secure the census rental as revenue. So we didn't have that much debt. But if we don't have an event, then all of the payroll that's been since October will be debt to the fair office account. This kind of perspective, Mr. Chair, but again, the dialogue and inviting you out to some of the plans we have visual. We're trying to put them on paper, but the procurement becomes difficult. And Mr. Francisco said probably the only way we can get this done is sole sourcing. And unfortunately, most of the things that we've been trying to get through are all come down to sole sourcing because either a business was unable to stay within the pricing, or they didn't have any interest because it takes so long to get a payment from the Navajo Nation. Those kind of things are our dilemma. But again, moving forward, like this week, we had some good exchange of dialogue regarding our marketing. We have some on our schedule is to receive some VIP skybox style seating that will allow us to do more marketing that's ever been on the grounds, maybe selling for years out is an opportunity, as well as some of the presentations of how we present our like maybe our gold sponsors or sponsors that are there, like mentioned, hockey or basketball or football arenas where they have a name on the facility. Yes, that is a immediate goal, but getting that facility is also the challenge, Mr. Chair. And I thank you for the time. I stand for any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Watchman, for the response. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any other comments or questions? If not, I'll go to Honorable Otto So. Honorable Otto So.
Hey, can you hear me? I'm sorry, I was on mute.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you very much, members of Resource and Development Committee members and Chairman and Vice Chair. Che dos che. The presenters regarding the Navajo Nation Fair, and it is a concern that the Navajo Nation Fair, the direction that they want to go, the movement, and at the end, it's basically capital that is usually needed to try to get funding into the fair there. And I think that really need to strategize on how we could get a lot of this out of the realm of the nation, the nation overseeing this. I do like the idea of making it a private, sort of like an enterprise. Honorable Kealan Begay, you have individuals that will be placed there who understands the marketing and fair activities and the needs. And basically what I'm saying is somewhere we have to get the political portion out of this area, from the fair, because we want it to run like a business. One is that one question is to the nation is, do you want to break away from this? Once you break away from the, once the nation break away from this, remember the nation will take this pretty much its investments out. But how do we propose a fair or this fair office to be quasi-independent, but still have a little bit of a string attached to the nation, because and when this fair happens, it bears the name of the Navajo Nation. We really can't say that, we're going to take capital away and all this stuff, because the last RDC move made amendments to the fair and placed it from Parks and Rec over to Department of Agriculture. And aje tashin sago beben na ilya na nishto hat in shik aho bansa kis go ben na ilya. There's probably a reason why these things were done in this matter. And I think going back to finding out why this was done and to look at to analyze what are the falls and positiveness from doing this at this time. Also looking at Parks and Recs when the fair was under Parks and Recs, what were the flaws, the negative impacts and the positive impacts on this. And we all know that based in fair, and Mr. Watchman indicated earlier that fairs are pretty much a dying breed. And even you have fairs across the Navajo Nation struggling. We have chapters putting on fairs now. And, is it their responsibility? And even plan really needs to be developed for this so that one model I like is how the Hispano Chamber of Commerce works with the city of Albuquerque. And they work off of if they bring certain amount of people into a region, and that's just their job. And each year, they get funding from the city of Albuquerque through their regular budget. And meaning like when conferences are going to be held in the city of Albuquerque, they try to get these individuals to room at the hotels across the nation or in Albuquerque, and they get a certain percentage of that hot tax. And I think that with the amount of hot tax coming into the nation, that's something that could be determined. For instance, if there's some sort of conference going on in Winter Rock, and instead of having the individuals stay in Gallup and so forth, having them book there locally, it improves the economy there local because you're spending the money. For instance, majority of the council Yahanatjaha, a lot of the council stays in Gallup, and their money is just being exported off the nation through the forms of utilizing these hotels in the city of Gallup. But how do we turn that around so we can keep the nation, keep the monies on the nation? And I think that's just my recommendation, that we really need to get a thorough analysis on the current entity that is administering the Navajo Nation Fair now. I'm not saying don't. It's not supposed to be in Department of Agriculture. What I'm saying is that we need to find a way to get this to prosper, because if we just take away things and so forth, the Navajo Nation, there's only two Navajo fairs on the books. That's the main Navajo Nation Fair and the Shiprock Fair. That's the reason why the Navajo Nation Police obligates their funds there, because they're required by statute to man up public safety there. Those are the only two fairs on the nation that allows it by code. The others, they're not in the code, such as Eastern, Western, and even the 4th of July celebration in Kayenta Central Agency. right now, by code, by statute, I think the Navajo Nation has an obligation to fund the Navajo Nation Fair because it's it's mandated by the statute. But in the meantime, how do we try to um, enhance this and make this a better thing so that we can try to have a better fair and so forth with a lot of economic development and just like a hotel on site there, that would really work. And a RV park. You see people pushing RVs through the nation, and they're looking for RV hookups. There's not much RV hookups on the nation also. And those are just some of my thoughts, and I really appreciate the the dialogue on this and the Diego because this this issue here really needs attention. Oh, what up in Primary of Agriculture, thank you for making this presentation. And the fair manager, Aja, I really appreciate that you did indicate that you value and honor leadership.
Thank you, Honorable So. Honorable Stewart, you have the floor.
Good morning, Chairman, Auto Vice Chair, Yaja, Arun, the colleagues of the Resource Development Committee, Shinaka, and colleagues of the 24th Navajo Nation Council, Auto, Mr. Francisco, Mr. Watchman, and staff listening in, and also our staff as well. Looking at the agenda, it's said to hear a presentation regarding the master operation plan. My interpretation of that, correct me if I'm wrong, was that there would have been a presentation saying, "Diya kota legislation a hotyanj, the quiz kanda ya da arunda that kodo hashin za hojis ndesk az do kodon za na hodejis na desk az even na kodogi Navajo Nation Fair gin dengi a hashin so a ya switch hands at zasadli akunda banachigi a ya peso dengi a queen in the reports that we have in previous years, that we have received as far as what was collected in the closeout reports at the time. So what was their differences and then what was needed. And then the past, what are we going to do? Mr. Watchman, from 2019, there was a packet that he proposed should hold for the 4th of July and the fair. The community members, the families, they bought into it. There were several packages that could have been purchased. What was the outcome of that? And it does show in our reports that we received at those times what happened and how those reports were given. And then also how Mr. White, his business has contributed towards the Navajo Nation Fair to make it happen. I was going to say success, but each year there's different areas of success. That's what I was hoping to hear in the master plan to change these plan of operations for the Navajo Nation Fair. 80 ashon of RDC Kurogi be Bansado Kesto Lesto, Nihikato Jato Lesto, Kurogi Eya Hanti Asati in those was all the Navajo Nation Fair, you ate on it. A honey could on him not present the needles and that. Ahashon, a ya kodoye, the quiz kanda, quina hida, a kodo, ahandas, ayi ati by need. A honey, they need for a master plan. Kodoya, naso don't net nijigo. Ha late out a yapitos was the Navajo Nation Fair. That was my interpretation of today's presentation. It's the same thing again. Shania Hanetzi, Key Allen. We're just discussing it over and over again. Other fairs have happened. Other fairs have done their own sponsorships. I go down to San Carlos, I go down to Globe, I go to Montana to these fairs. Those tribes contribute, yes. There are other councils, yes, that run the fairs. There are a committee on the fair. But they communicate. Kodogi there's no communication from Mr. Francisco, from Mr. Watchman, from Mr. Bala to say to RDC, Kodogi sha'a, what are we gonna do? The only that I get communication from is Mr. Vicente. When the arena panels came in, he went and put the bucking corrals together in the back, and the bucking chutes were put together, and then the arena was getting put up. And I told him I was gonna come down and look at it again for myself, but I haven't. I haven't gone down there. And like I said, I communicate with Mr. Vicente. As far as the lights go, as far as what needs to be done, and sponsorship can be done, yes. It needs to stand on its own, yes. I wish 75 years ago, the council or whoever put that together would have thought of that to say, Dia asati sazindole, dia asati heishin kurogi eya ape. Because you have other companies that do that. They volunteered their time. Look at Cheyenne Frontier Days. They volunteered their time. Thousands of workers volunteered their time. High school students volunteered their time to be there for the 20 days that Cheyenne Frontier Days happens. There's nothing happening like that in 75 years, 74 years, 72 years for the Navajo Nation Fair. It's really hard to get in there to say, this is what we want to do, this is how we want to improve it. That's what I was hoping we were going to hear this morning, Chairman, was to say, this is what we want to do. Not just a wish list again and a list of complaints of bills that haven't been paid. Those they happen, they just need to be paid, irregardless. Those vendors are wanting their money from 2 years ago. Surprisingly, we haven't even had somebody come back to say, okay, Navajo Nation, we're going to charge you 10%, 15% per day for not paying your bill to us. I've had run across dot contractors who have done that to rodeo committees. That's the only way they get paid. So in those areas, that's what I want to address, Chairman, to say that, this, for me, I thought this is, if I'm wrong, then let me know, Chairman, if I'm wrong, but I thought we were going to hear a presentation on what was going to happen in the future, not what has happened from 72 years ago back, and just a wish list from there. I'll quit it, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Stewart. So let me go back to Mr. Francisco and Mr. Watchman to respond to Honorable So and Honorable Stewart. Mr. Francisco?
Good morning, Otto Yate, to the members of the committee, and also to the two individual council delegate, Odo So and Mr. Wilson Stewart. Thank you for your comments and looking at, really the agenda was given yesterday. A call a Ecuador master plan need on a it's dealing with how we want to develop and how we want to develop the fairgrounds. Do di kwando the arena do conference stuff. So we didn't get no, like I had indicated, that we received no bids from nobody. So we have to re-advertise it according to the Navajo Nation procurement law, that, you know, it has to be advertised and has to be a contract. Ako those needs is I'm not going to stop from not doing it. We're going to do it, and we are going to get a successful business to work on that for us. So now it's going out beyond the Navajo Nation, but Navajo Nation businesses still can apply. We are going to go ahead and do the plans again and work on it from there. That way, once we get that moving, then we can work on doing the preliminary work of that, and set forth of reporting to the Navajo Nation Resources and Development Committee. You guys are a very busy committee, and now that that I can work with your legislative assistant Rodney Tahi in any information regarding the 4th of July and the upcoming events, we can forward those to you. I was just looking at, you guys can also, we did get a website that we have indicated, that needed to be out there and working with, with the public and getting the information out there. And, it's out there at a call. That's communication that, we'll give you the website information, and we'll route that through Mr. Tahi to give to all of you, Resources and Development Committee. For the future of, what we can do. That's what we are doing with the Department of Agriculture. And, Fair Office is involved with the strategic planning. We're addressing a lot of areas, like, for instance, as reported by my boss, Mr. Watchman, that, the hindrance is that we have to work with Capital Improvement Development Office on any projects. And that was already addressed through Division of Justice when Lillian Swales was the attorney for Economic Development and Division of Community Development. I was really working on a lot of the projects, Aquado A contracts, Ashido, Aquado contracts that they that's what we were doing. And apparently with Division of Justice, that's when that happened, was 2 years ago, that was pulled from us. And they stated that, it was not written in our plan of operation that we can allow us to do our own capital improvement projects. And that's what's really hindering a lot of our projects. And we have to wait, like we've been working on getting a new administration building for the last 2 years. We worked with the Division of Economic Development, and they were working diligently with us. We opened the qualification, we're ready to do the contract, and it's just like a bomb just hit there and telling us, no, you cannot do that. That needs to go to CPMD, which is Capital Improvement Project Department. It's very hard for us to really move forward on a lot of our projects that need to be addressed, and in getting all of this moving, they get involved, and where we can allow these to happen. We can work on getting through the master plan on that, and working through all of that, and making those kind of information that can be provided to you guys. And yeah, the rodeo arena was completed. I mean, not completed, but we did get a new whole equipment, and it's more of a style of how PRCAs run their rodeos, and that's what we're doing. We want to upgrade the rodeo arena. We want to upgrade the fairgrounds and get more conference rooms. You see, that is di Nahanada da do ash and Haishna the Schneedol. It's request for it, and if it gets approved, we'll work with you. We made the Navajo Pavilion into a conference area, so they're utilizing that area as a conference. It's a minimal amount of payment that we receive. We're doing enough for everybody, but the space, we don't have the HVAC in all the buildings because they're dilapidated and everything that needs to be addressed. And I still have the command center here utilizing the whole Nakai Hall. We know that the lease has expired with the wellness center, and also the command station is also being utilized over at the Gorman Hall. We're doing what we can, and a lot of it is, I work with the Department of Agriculture to allow these things to happen, and the requests are just tremendous out there. And like the hardship, all of a sudden they want to come out, and we do have an agreement with them of serving the nation. And also, it's very hard to get programs to assist us here at the fairgrounds, because they tell us that we're not even a program under the Navajo Nation. You guys are figured as a enterprise, and you're just on your own. So I'm trying to request for facility maintenance to come over and help us mop the floors, clean the restrooms and everything. So as staff, we're doing that on our own. I grab my own broom and mop, and we're doing our own janitorial. So things like that are happening here at the fair office. And even I had to move and try to get a office complex for the fair office. At least the fair office has a decent office that we're working out of, and and taking what we can. So that's why we're located here at the southwest part of the sports center. So and I provide you guys invitation to come and visit the fair office. You guys are more than welcome to come over, and every council delegate can come on the fairgrounds and meet with us, and and give you a tour and providing all these information, which I can do, and my staff can do that as well. So we're doing what we can, and we're really moving along with the 4th of July, and and that's why we had to do the contingency plan, and at the Yokade from the upper leadership area of the Navajo Nation, President and Vice President's office, and with the command station, every avenue you need this that should know, and it at times it's overwhelming because of the deadlines I have to meet, but I'm meeting them, and I am so glad that I have a very good boss who really supports me, and in doing what we can for the fair office. So I just want to bring that up to you, and we're doing our best. That's all we can do, and we want to bring the fair office up to where it should be today. And I'm sorry that I had to bring up the financial issues to you, but I will tell you that, with my office, and I'll let Mr. Watchman know that we'll just go ahead and take care of it, but things like that, you guys need to hear these reports and getting these things out. So I thank you for your comments, and I really appreciate Oto's comments as well. I really respect the leaders out there, especially the council delegates. With your help, it can be done. With we can work together. I say we, not I. So that way it can be done, and surfacing through what we can do with a better tomorrow for the fair office. And and I'm going to continue working with the Department of Agriculture at this point, and working through and working for the Navajo Nation throughout the area. See, so I really do appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Francisco. Mr. Watchman.
Mr. Chair, I guess in short, hopefully we'll be meeting again, and your leadership. And my comment is that we'll provide a written document, and also where we're at with some of the gains we had this year, and what we feel that can happen, and maybe there can be some exchange on what can be offered by leadership to influence some of our entities that we're in partnership or need to help with our upcoming events, as well as moving forward on the ideas of what direction can we go. And it's probably a good opportunity as we're discussing this on the with the not having the fair for a couple of years, and coming out with a change happening within a reasonable time that we can move to and work together on. Some of the other questions, and like Mr. Stewart had, our Delegate Stewart had, we will get back and respond in writing on some of those things. With probably the best way, because those are ongoing. And way back early on in the conversation about billing from 2018, those have been very hard to deal with. We did pay for a while, and after a while it got unreasonable, because as a part of the exchange over and the transition, Parks and Rec we felt they had an obligation to cover the debt, being that a lot of it was within the Parks and Recreation, not even utilizing the fair accounts, and they were exhausted at that point. And when the fiscal year turns over, you really have to justify, and there's so many years out. We justified as many as we could, and just to get those vendors off of us. But there are still some out there that are outstanding that we have handed it over to Parks and Rec, but Parks and Rec is saying that since the resolution was passed, they're not obligated to pay those anymore. But yet, they're the one that was obligated from the beginning, and we feel that they still have obligations. But nonetheless, we did clear out some of those since that last discussion. But there's a couple still hindering, and we do need some help on how to rectify that. Maybe it might be directive given to Parks and Rec to look at. Some of those are not 18; they're billing from 16 and 17, even much as 6 years back, Mr. Chair. So this is some of the dilemma we have. Again, I appreciate the time. Again, I'm respecting the leadership, your role as our oversight. This event, or these events, as well as the quasi commission status, and maybe we should have a workshop on defining what that really is. It really goes a little beyond, is how I understand under Title II and how that was adopted on, having more specific roles. And maybe we could assign some of the resource committee to different events and be sort of helping us along. I know that has been done in the past, like someone be helping with the rodeo, someone helping with powwow, parade, other things that we need help all the way around. We're not refusing help, and moving forward, that's notwithstanding, we're going to need a lot more help, not only from you, but also general public. Mr. Chair, and thank you for the time.
Thank you. Honorable members of RDC, any other comments? Honorable Daniels, are you back on the call?
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair, Shina, members of Resources and Development Committee, Mr. Francisco, Mr. Watchman, on the fairgrounds, on the fairs, Navajo Nation Fair, other fairs throughout the Navajo Nation, agencies, go to affairs on date, go Bantas case of set that did Western Navajo Fair and Datle, Utah Navajo Fair and Datle, Northern Navajo Fair, Eastern Central da. Aren't the 4th of July celebration da. Hit an end Lenigi. Hit aid Lenigi Hasin for na Rasha Kodo. Adonana Kodo, the Tabanasa, the Kokadona Redo. Hot anyway, now Navajo Nation Fair. A Coco Kodo to Nash Eagle Kodo. Adonana Kodo. Throughout the United States. Northern Navajo Nation Fair is the largest fair, tribal fair. So the Nash Eagle, the Aden Chicago, the Jane Hot Eagle, and our fairgrounds again. So Craig, about Saskis, Lalita, Eliago, Bohonet, to accommodate our Navajo people. Yeah, our Navajo people, when we have the Navajo Nation Fair, usually it starts 1 week after Natle, Evan Bantas Kiss. How can we accommodate our Navajo people? You go and the hot or the all the way down to porta potties, porta johns, and the hot that leo that could so loud of it and hot that le. We utilize Navajo Nation Police Public Safety. Yeah, we're taking away officers away from the local with public safety at the local level when we have these this Navajo Nation Fair. When that the lab at the how yet not leho that could has under so Quadona gate a late a net moving forward a late a on that silent so upon first case ago the other Saturday could also change the has got the kid say yeah the focal quado the gun at or maybe kitchen the wheel net always kitchen the house wheel net as the PBR than date ako Kalita a date dash I don't know sponsors alita besnal nisjot ada I kodo shchena idishkit ada a koko ani ban so the keso ada as the gako as that ko halon halan the indoor arena so they had be as Leon that's that restaurants were right there feeding stuff the cliche dam feeds not the whole in the thousands I don't know the good that is all feeding hello so that about this cafe could other sponsorship issue the go sponsors issue the go what I don't know could it's not a mess what I think you know daily and could but he could have and the Khalid a deal me that what other bands this case what other she bands that case could so issue what other deal yago so she affairs they've been getting it and yes I know we have events year round for our youth. I don't know conference agricultural conference what that year round. I seen affairs they pass on so got affairs I don't know the 4th of July celebration, the 4th of July rodeo or that ego. But we really need to open up for our Navajo people year round events. Aid Baban that's case yes that did all the done over done that's the I don't know at all there's that all the what and not or so though he got over done that it hello or we got that so halita be got on a gate Navajo Nation Fair or non fair office halita be again all so what are they about so case eso that's a sapa que hui liado but is new that's a big enough dollars so that papan that's case go that as a peso is dollars as a gauge was dollars I don't know what on the great fairs the agency for fairs that he can't the water it's not so that you papan so case so ban that's case what that did I don't know what yeah that's get the now yeah what I can extend the way the Navajo Nation Fair that was now holds so that on that case I don't know what the Northern Fair though what you know as a choice that the cup but you know as in the way fair that the Northern Fair
Honorable Daniels.
Chairman, Delegate Daniels got knocked off the call.
Okay. He did say he was driving to Window Rock, so I believe we'll give him some time when he comes back on. Honorable Daniels, Mr. Francisco, on the agenda. You said the discussion, the focus is on master development plan. It's on the fairgrounds. Ashtedo nail improvement so that on under B it talks about the barriers the Navajo Nation Fair Office will encounter because I don't ben now son like what how at the Nova Heinzi Ado corrosion and kit as well as to Mr. Watchman here. We understand that the pandemic has caused a lot of us to sort of put things down and put everything on pause. But some of us we weren't able to do that, like leadership. We still conducted meetings through our teleconference almost every day, daily. RDC is very proactive. Mr. Francisco and Mr. Watchman, Ashin Kisbahasan, we're very active. We're here as leadership. We wanted to hear from you. Ado, Mr. Francisco, nada anish fairgrounds has aja. Ako, kada isnil gishin, what ega biga. Points and what on Jonago has ado lesto, but ado peso il on. What I do dinikeda. We can be self-sufficient. We can also have this fair office become either a 501c where you operate on the revenue that's generated. Yes, sir. That way we understand what we can do as leadership to support you. It's good. Roshan and Honorable Begaya had the sponsorship plan of operation out of statute Aliaga, state of Arizona. It are self-sufficient. Out of this fairgrounds, Winter Rock is the central location of the Navajo Nation, and we should have a robust plan to really improve the fairgrounds. All these years, it makes me wonder what happened. How do we envision? This is a challenge for us. We've made recommendations today. We're told that project management engineers from DCD need to be involved. That tells me that we need to have a bigger meeting. Perhaps we need to have a meeting there at the fair office, not the fair office, and one of those Nokai Hall buildings, or one of the buildings where we can sit 6 feet apart and really go over and see some plans and say, this is the outline of where the compound is at. This is the airport here. Today case, let's make this building somehow an attractive place to plan things, concerts that maybe George Strait will show up. You never know. Conferences, trainings, horse trainings, livestock shows. We could do a lot, but even with the upcoming 4th of July, maybe have a trail ride as well. Focus on young people, how to take care of their livestock. This would be a very educational tool for our young people. They really enjoy going out on a trail ride. Come back and learn how horseshoeing is done, how to groom horses, how to show animals from 4-H club members. But a lot can be done. And there was even a suggestion, how can CKP Insurance help? We're giving them a lot of money. How can they really help to improve the fairgrounds? Maybe they need to be at the table at that time as a follow-up meeting, as well as Dr. Shabala needs to be on the call today, discussing how the fairgrounds are the Wonderock. Oh, then go for years, and it's time to really do something moving forward. What can be done? These are areas we're looking at. There has to be a closer look and say, okay, this is what we can do. PBR, 35 years ago is the first time it was put up, according to Mr. Watchman. Out of the last fair back in probably 2019, when we took office. During the fair, PBR was there. And that was an excellent show. Can you imagine? Whole place under a building, a huge auditorium. Bring in horse trainers. Like I said, you have to be a visionary. A solution is why we come together. We bring a solution to the table and say, although these are the barriers, this is what we can do. We make it feel like this thing's so heavy that we can't crawl out from underneath it. It shouldn't be like that. We should lift that thing off of us and say, I'm going to this is what I plan to do as a fair manager. This is really a recommendation that I'm going to bring to leadership. Mr. Francisco and Mr. Watchman, we're here to help. I don't know how we can do it. I believe we do need to do something. Pros and cons for the fair office to become its own department. Every year, plan of operation is needed. Fund management plan is needed. We can all come together with our attorney as well, even from DNR attorney. Perhaps bring in Mr. Manny Wheeler as well. See what his recommendations are, knowing that he has done the fairs previously. Mr. Francisco, Mr. Watchman. That's what we're here for. We wanted to hear the master plan development, master development plan for the fairgrounds. In person would be good, and put up maps and say this is how we would like to go forward, and solidify that algorithmically. Next 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, one of these days it's going to culminate, because we're looking to the future and say this is what we started back in 2022. 10 years later, this is what it looks like. Let's see how long it takes could take less if we really get out there and find sponsorship as well. Ahoinsan, Nantano Senigi, Kodo, Ahote Goshin Bahastrit or Leto. I believe a follow-up would be good to really sit down together with DNR, Department of Agriculture, the Fair Office, CKP Insurance, and Department of Justice and others, DCD as well. So they can bring their engineers and say, we're going to say the same thing year after year, and there'll be no improvements. Somewhere we just got to put our foot down and say, let's start today. And we can do that this year. Honorable members of RDC, do you have any other comments or questions? Honorable Daniels, are you back? Then, honorable members of RDC, any comments, questions?
Chairman, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Honorable Stewart.
Question. Again, Chairman Yacht Edo, RDC members, colleagues, Arunda Kuroto, Mr. Francisco and Mr. Watchman, and then also all the others online, and then listening in this morning to our call, and thinking back on this conversation, and what also what was stated earlier as this being a funding that goes through the protocols of not totally receiving general funds, but as a offset, I guess is the best word to use, might not be, but as an offset to, since it comes from the entertainment part of it, from the fair, in the time that Mr. Francisco has been there, from that time to now, and it was stated, the pandemic, what areas of entertainment or of funding have you looked at for the facilities there? What type of areas are you looking at? When I remember back when we met at Twin Arrows, your presentation was, yes, we're going to have the 4th of July. Yes, we're going to have the fair. And at that time, I told you weren't ready. Personally speaking, I still don't think you're ready with that to be happening, because of the fact that, we have other areas that need to be concentrated on with the facility upgrade and the maintenance that needs to be done. Those aren't going to happen within this time frame. As Shana stated, Herman Daniels, is that this is the biggest events that happen here. The two people, look out for them. You can't just put on your plan, people are going to stay 6 feet apart and wear a mask. Who's going to abide by that? You travel here and there, people to this day are not wearing masks along I-40. So how are you going to implement those types of areas? So again, I don't think we're ready for either one of those things, because the facility itself, the site itself is not ready or capable. And then the other area is that, if this is a push from executive branch, and then are they going to give the same concentration to the other fairs across the nation so that they can continue to operate? Is this one, like stated by Brother Otto, it's one of several fairs. The others, yes, they are run by the community or the agency, however they were put into place in their plan, and Navajo Nation doesn't fund those, yes, but will the same attention be given to them on that side with the same perspective as well for these two to continue? Those are the areas I want to ask again in this conversation that we're having. And I do agree with Shania Chairman, is that other areas need to be looked at. When my brother, Dalbert Bernali, was the fair manager there, He brought in WPRA. He brought in the 4D bale racing. He brought in the Pat Parnelli. He brought in different things to use that facility the years that he was there as a fair manager to make sure those facilities are being used at that time. So what preparations are being planned now? Or is it just go there 8 to 5 and just do what needs to be done and not plan for the future of those facilities and what can be done? Those are my comments again. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Delegate Stewart. Mr. Francisco,
Chairman
Mr. Watchman. Okay, Honorable Begay, go ahead.
Chairman, here on the list. I believe update the Chairman. Kodo the plan of operation do policy ki atkinsleko implemented the atkinsleko maybe by some type of a quick process to install commissioners as soon as possible. Although a year later, or after the fair, something like that, then the proper process could be put in place. I think either way. If we still are in the same position right now, there's a lot of obstacles they continue to bring up, and then the area that you've explained. Legislation to develop Eliago as a separate entity, and then commission again. I don't know if this could be done within a month. I'm not sure if this needs to be done only at RDC, but I think it has to be at the council level because it's going to be embedded into the Navajo Nation code. Ajbe needs to go in the EP has aniki today and snow on not after or do hydrogen on the Yostico or Arjun program give with Nana Yos on not ours. And that way to take the quick machine on I love it and obligation that we need. I mean, they have connection, but I don't think it's being utilized effectively. Why is it that our area is not being successful, but people that are being mentioned are being successful on the off the reservation? Management plan or finance plan I'm sure the council can support it in the meantime. And then as a committee, let's reach out to these firms or companies that we have been dishing out fundings to them. CKP, NTUA. I'm sure they have a lot of sponsorship funding available. Just to get it, just to get the feet up. Just get the fair office get on its feet. What have its credit limit a late Ayla and so the bond test case. but I sure like to request for a meeting, Chairman, maybe at the I don't know if Mr. Freeland is online. J State Task Force Aja, 3 that I see Aja, Mr. Freeland is the chair. I'm a member, and then Ada Kodor, Delegate Daniel Che Aja, Tanil from RDC Aja, and I see Tansta. Maybe on Ash and Ni, they're really in the red or they're struggling, and I sure like to meet, have a conference call with them. It died on RDC that's and even further reach out. Lane Chan da hot to Cheyenne Rodeo that need a set the door and Lake Dallas. I mean, even like I said, I like to hear directly from our Navajo rodeo contestants what their thought is. I mean, I'm sure they don't want to be part of the. Maybe that's another thing that they don't want to be part because this is really too political. Isn't that na? I thought that I did not a bit that I thought. But away from the Navajo Nation direct program, the direct involvement by the council, but the only tie is the policy that will be embedded in the title, the Navajo Nation Code. It be not local go just the way after leto sato the shingi that not link go out after. I don't think his staff yeah, I mean, I'm not questioning their experience or their expertise, but what I'm saying is that they have a duty of the position that they're holding right now. That's the problem that I see even with our division directors. Daily, day-to-day duties there. Opera funding office o Navajo Nation daily situation so that's the way I see a lot of these individuals that are being mentioned. I know they have a bigger task, especially dealing with all these ranch. Those particular programs needs to be improved as well. I'm not sure. I mean, we can make an adjustment. We can make an amendment, but in plain sight, Chairman. So I don't know if legislative council is on the line to see what the response is in this particular request. And I don't know if we need to put this in writing to get this going. Request Chairman. I'd like to get a response from the legislative council, or if not, DOJ.
Honorable Begay, are you done?
My apologies, Chairman. Yes, I yield the floor back, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Khan, are you on the call with us still?
Mr. Chair, yes, I am here. I was busy concentrating on making a list here, and I didn't hear all of Delegate Begay's question. I am sorry. Please, Mr. Begay, say it one more time. It might be in my list of things here to send you anyway, but please tell me again. I am sorry.
Honorable Begay.
Chairman, Ms. Khan, my specific question is that we want to push have being the Navajo Nation Fair be its own entity rather than being under the Department of Agriculture or the Navajo Nation Parks and Recreation, have its own executive director, maybe one or two staff, where they can have additional staffing position to be developed, and that the oversight will be commissions who could be appointed by various program, like the president may appoint two, the RDC may appoint two, and then at large, one could be appointed by I'm not sure, just an interest general Navajo. Maybe that one slot could be specifically that they have been, I don't know, professional level rodeo contestant or something of that nature, that they could be part of this particular commissioners to really make a decision. Could that legislation be developed? How soon could it be developed, and how soon could we put that in place? And if it has to be brought before the full council, maybe have a special session done sometimes in early June, and then on the second legislation, maybe have a funding request legislation to put in place into this program for first year only for now. And then from there on, we could be able to just so that there's established of an account for this particular program, and then at the same time, maybe request to the Auditor General, request for an audit of the past 5 years or 4 years or 6 or 10 years of this particular program, and why it didn't really make any funding or based on. So that's the two main areas, Chairman. I don't know if I was more clear on my request.
Thank you, Honorable Begay. Ms. Khan, your response.
Yes, Mr. Delegate Begay, members of the Resources and Development Committee, I have been making a list here of topics that need particular investigation. And one of them was one with regard to what Delegate Begay has mentioned. From what I can gather, the request is that there be legislation drafted with regard to making what I think is called an enterprise for the fair functioning, provide to establish an enterprise to be run by a board with individuals selected by the president and perhaps the Speaker of Council from certain backgrounds, and that the funding for the first year be no funding sources identified, but for funding to be provided to this enterprise for 1 year period. That is what I understand the request is. Of course, this could be drafted. However, I also heard something like 2 or 3 other possibilities with regard to the fair. One is to remove the fair office from being under the Department of Agriculture and have its own department, this within the Division of Natural Resources. The other possibility is to create a Navajo fair enterprise, which is what Delegate Begay is referring to. The other is what you had suggested, Chairman, is to create a 501c nonprofit entity for the fair. And then, so I am making this list for you, but I do want to bring to your attention that the development of the legislation is going to require, let's say in this instance, a creation of an enterprise of the Navajo Nation. this is going to create require several some research, and then in my notes that I will send to you would be that my suggestion is that this request be made to the Division of Natural Resources Attorney Robert Allen for the drafting of a Navajo Nation Council statute to create a Navajo Nation fair enterprise with a board of directors selected from by the president and the legislative branch. And the other, with regard to creating a 501c nonprofit, this request should be presented to the Department of Justice Tax and Finance Unit. And with regard to making the division, the fair office into a department within the Division of Natural Resources would require a draft of an amendment to the Department of Agriculture's plan of operation. And this should be presented, this request should be presented to the Division of Natural Resources Attorney Robert Allen. With regard to financing, any delegate Kealan Begay's request for 1 year of financing presumably would come from the UUFB, and this would need the usual clearances for any financial request from the UUFB. One is the controller has to identify funds are available. The Office of Budget and Finance is to look at any of the budget forms to see where the money is coming from, where it is going to, and that the funds are there. And that requires the drafting of the legislation with the requisite budget forms. Another possibility that was raised by Delegate Otto So for funding possibility was to amend the hotel occupancy tax such that the taxes paid during the particular fairs, Navajo Nation Fair in Windrock and the 4th of July celebration, that the hotel occupancy tax paid within during this the time of these two celebrations be provided to the fair office. And this would require an amendment to the hotel occupancy tax. And this request should be presented to the Department of Justice Tax and Finance Unit. The other legal question I have to suggest is to the Department of Justice Natural Resources Unit. And that is the question, why does the fair office have to go to CPMD, a capital improvement project office, for the fair office's infrastructure plans to be financed? That would be a question to the Department of Justice's Natural Resources Unit. With regard to the second question, why does the Facility Maintenance Department not provide cleaning services and janitorial services to the fair office? That question should be provided to the Department of Justice's Human Services and Government Unit. With regard to the insurance as a possibility for funding fair office infrastructure, that question should go to the tax unit with regard to whether or not I think it was CPG insurance can be used to finance infrastructure from the insurance. So I have an ongoing list, which I've read from and will send to you, Resources and Development Committee members, and to Mr. Francisco with regard to issues and possibilities for problem solving that have been brought up during my listening to the conversation. I'm sorry for having to have gone a little bit beyond the initial question, Mr. Chair, but I'm trying to keep track of where to go for answers to these questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Resources and Development Committee and members of the Fair Office. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Khan, for that. Your response, we certainly appreciate that, and I'm sure we will reach out to DNR attorney for assistance Honorable Gay, could you please facilitate the meeting? I have to present a legislation to Budget and Finance.
Chairman, well, if there's no more other question, maybe let's follow with the recommendation from our legislative council. We can wrap up the meeting, Chairman.
Okay. What we'll do is have a separate follow-up meeting, a work session where we are in person with the Division of Natural Resources, Department of Agriculture, Fair Office, DCD, as well as ourselves and CKP Insurance. We would like to see some maps and have a better presentation moving forward. We'll have that follow-up meeting as soon as we can. Mr. Tahi, if you would put that on the agenda for the next meeting, not tomorrow, but the following. Or if we just amend the agenda tomorrow, we can add it as well. So, I know that we're being pulled in different directions and we have to head out to Cameron just by noon as well to have our meeting out there tomorrow. So, any other comments or questions? None? We'll just go ahead and conclude at this time. It is now 10:37 a.m. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, Mr. Francisco and Mr. Watchman. Thank you.